Before we start, I want to name the container clearly here we're in. I'm not here to decide who's right or wrong. What I'm here to do is to slow the conflict down until honesty and connection can re-enter the room again. So here's the human situation we're looking at today. There's two people who have been together for, I think, a few years now. They care about each other deeply. They function well in most areas. There's support, there is appreciation and shared life logistics. But there's a problem though that doesn't stay contained to one moment, and that is sleep. See, one partner works in healthcare. And so rest is not a luxury for them. It's how they stay regulated and functional and safe, right? The other partner, however, the other partner snores, like snores really loudly, snores consistently. And this has been happening for over a year now. Now they've tried everything that feels reasonable. Like they've tried earplugs, they've tried white noise, they've tried taking medical tests and devices and even workarounds. And some things help, but not really consistently. There's one option that works really well, but it causes a lot of discomfort to that snoring partner, so it's not used very regularly. And because of the finances in their scenario and the lack of space, separation at night into different rooms isn't really an option. So the nights keep stacking up, the exhaustion accumulates over time, and what began as a practical issue now has become something that feels a lot heavier in this relationship. It's not just I'm tired, but I don't know how much longer I can live like this in sleep deprivation. Now, what's really happening in this setting, I don't think has as much to do with snoring. I think it's more so like that chronic deprivation without a resolution on the horizon. It's not, do you care about me? Versus, why does this keep landing on my body to absorb, right? So integrity here always asks us to notice where the truth has started going underground. So there's a truth here on one side that sounds kind of like this. It sounds like saying, I'm reaching my limit. This is actually impacting my mental health. And I can't keep paying this cost indefinitely, right? But then there's also a truth on the other side, isn't there? And that other truth sounds kind of like this. It says, but I'm trying, and I don't want to hurt you, and I don't know what else to do without harming myself. Now, the thing is, both of these truths, they can definitely exist at the same time, can't they? And this is where integrity gets a little bit more difficult, doesn't it? See, integrity usually breaks not because people don't care, but because limits aren't named with enough clarity to actually be respected. So when the exhaustion is building for the one, people often soften their language, right, to avoid guilt or conflict. And they'll say things like, listen, I know it's not your fault, right? Or I don't want to make it a big deal. Or, gosh, I feel bad even bringing this up. Can you relate to those? But then the body keeps score anyway, doesn't it? Now, let's maybe talk a little bit about intimacy in this scenario here, right? See, intimacy isn't just emotional closeness. Intimacy is also about like shared responsibility for impact, isn't it? And here, intimacy kind of gets strained because the suffering is asymmetrical, right? The one partner is losing sleep like night after night, and the other partner is experiencing the discomfort when solutions are being suggested for them to try. And slowly something subtle is happening in this dynamic. See, the person who's exhausted begins to feel unseen, right? Not unloved, just unseen. Especially when the frustration is met with, oh, you're overreacting, right? And I think that sentence matters because once someone's lived experience is minimized, the conflict now is no longer just about the original issue. See, it kind of morphs and now it becomes whether pain is allowed to count in the first place. And intimacy can't really survive where reality has to be negotiated. See, most of us recognize some version of this pattern, I think, in our own experience, don't we? Maybe it's at work when one person absorbs the overload because that's just how it is. It could show up in families when someone is told to be more patient instead of being actually supported, right? This comes up in relationships too, when one person is adapting over and over while the other person reaches their limit more slowly. And I think if we're honest, many of us have probably been on both sides of this, haven't we? See, I've been the one who's pushing through something because it didn't really affect me in the same way. And I've also been the one who's quietly unraveling while telling myself I was being unreasonable. This isn't about fault finding. This is about mismatched thresholds, if you will. So let's name like the shadow contract that's underneath all of this scenario that we're describing and navigating. I think that shadow contract sounds something like this. It would say something like, if I'm trying, you shouldn't still be struggling, right? Now, true, that contract was never stated out loud, but it's showing up whenever effort is used to invalidate impact. And effort does matter, right? But effort doesn't really erase the consequence. When this pattern stays unexamined, the cost oftentimes is resentment. Now, it's not really explosive resentment, it's more like a quiet and corrosive kind of resentment. They're the kind of resentment that makes people feel trapped, the kind that turns care into calculation. They're the kind that eventually asks, listen, is this relationship even sustainable, or am I just enduring amidst it? And relationships don't really end usually because someone is snoring, right? I think the relationships end usually because one person is feeling all alone with a problem that never gets resolved. So here's a question I want to leave with you. Where in your life are you tolerating something that keeps asking your body to pay the price? You don't need to answer that question right now. Just as you're considering it, like, notice what's stirring up for you, what's coming up for you. I mean, if you do want to engage, I don't want you to tell me what someone should do or shouldn't do in this scenario. What I'd love to hear, if you're open to it, I want you to maybe drop me in the comments. Tell me where you recognized yourself in this story, or what this scenario finally helped you to be able to name. And so, as often as I do in this series, I want to remind you, let's keep this reflective and not evaluative. Not like they did wrong or this is the problem, more so as here's what I'm seeing in myself. Here's what I'm reflecting on as a result of what we talked about. Thanks for engaging with me. I will see you in the next episode.